Alaina, welcome to House of Horns. It's a new Rams podcast. You are our first guest. I don't know if it's a big honor for you, but it is for us. Welcome to the show. How are you doing for week one of the NFL season?
Oh no, I'm absolutely honored. Thank you so much for having me. I'm good. It feels like football's back. Excited to actually see real games. Like kind of sick over preseason, ready to go. But it's coming up quick. But it should be a good start. So definitely excited to talk about it with you guys.
And before we get started into football, I'm just gonna bring it up, Elena, because I was so worried about butchering your name, and I just want to kind of hear some of your stories about how people mess up your name because my full name is, actually Gilberto, and I just said I'm gonna make it easier for people, and I went with Gilbert. Is that something you're like, hey, I'm not gonna make it easier for people? That's my name.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I tend to give people, I usually just let people call me like the wrong name if they say it wrong. It's like I learned at a young age it wasn't worth the fight. Alana was a very popular one when I was a kid, so I was just like, okay, that's fine. But no, it's okay. It's one of those things. I think if people tend to butcher names, and it's like some people put up a fight or not, and I gave up that battle a long time ago, so I can certainly understand you just making it easier on people.
How about with Getzenberg? Am I saying that right?
You got it
Okay,
perfect.
all
Yeah,
right.
it's just a lot of ease is what I
Yeah.
tell people, so it's that one's not so bad.
And some more background before we get started with the game. Elena, you've been with ESPN for 2 years covering the Buffalo Bills, and before that, you were covering the Panthers for the Charlotte Observer. I've been following your work for a while. How's it been going and working for ESPN and covering the Bills, which I'm guessing is a lot of fun covering Bills Mafia?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a really fun team to cover. It's a really passionate fan base, which is a lot of fun. I described Buffalo. I had never been to Buffalo before I started covering the team for ESPN. And it's kind of like a college town in the sense that like everything's about the Bills. Like it's their when their game days, everything like shuts down and like it's craziness. And the tailgating here is an experience is what I'll call it. They are here very early and like sometimes like days before like setting up and all that. So it's an experience. But I love the experience at ESPN. It's cool to work with so many talented people and all that stuff. I've really enjoyed it and it's always fun. It's cool to cover a team that's um like I think it's kind of like a journalism thing where it's the average teams like are sometimes a little more sometimes it can get repetitive and all that, but I think it's cool to cover a team that has so many stories and has a lot of attention like the Bills do. It comes with some fun stuff.
Yeah, and I'm a little bummed that this game is out in Buffalo, especially in September, because I don't know about December, January, but right now it's kind of a good time, and I want to see some broken tables, and a good little tailgate. But I guess in LA will be fine. Go ahead.
I do think if I described the weather to you outside right now, you would be thrilled. It's in
Okay.
LA. So it is already rainy. It's like in the mid to upper 60s today and very windy. Like you are happy that you do not have to even in September, the weather's are it's supposed to warm up this weekend, but still I think you're okay with it
Well,
being in LA.
people in LA are always complaining about the weather. It's 104 degrees out here, so we can't stop complaining. Me and Victor are always talking about it, but we'll take 66 degrees and a little wind here. But
Okay.
going off of that, how about with the Super Bowl hype? How about with Josh Allen being a superstar and everything you just mentioned about the fan base being electric, and even if it could be a down year, they're going to still support, but with the Super Bowl hype, it must be a whole different level of support and energy that you're probably feeling this every single day.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because I think, this team had a lot of attention last year. Like there were a lot of people who thought they'd be good and like they had like there were high aspirations and like people thought they would do well last year. But I think that's even like it's obviously increased this year. And I do think a lot of that's like Von Miller coming to from the Rams to Buffalo. Like I think that kind of raised it even more because he was a superstar that like this defense didn't really have quite to that level. So I think that's raised things even more, and it is cool covering a team that has so much. I mean, most people are picking them as like the most talented roster in the NFL, and I think you can feel the expectations here. But this is a team now. I mean, we this is like probably the team in the NFL that has like flipped the most. I mean, they went from losing for so many years to now being one of the teams that's talked about as the best like it's been that way for a couple years now. So I think that speaks to Josh Allen too. So and him, and it's cool covering him, and he makes plays of practice sometimes. That's like, oh right, like he's very good at throwing the football. So it is cool, and I think there's a lot of excitement in this building about what this team. I'm literally in the practice facility, so there's a lot of excitement in this building about what the team can do, and it makes sense. I mean, this is a very talented roster.
It's pretty wild that Josh Allen could do anything and it'll go viral in Buffalo. When he wore that red helmet, it looks so cool to me. I'm like, I wish I was out there to see that in person. That's how cool Josh Allen is right now. And then even Sean McVay has noticed by saying like, yeah, they're getting picked a lot by these football pundits about being Super Bowl contenders. I see it, I respect it, and I don't know if he's using that as bulletin board material, but he's noticed all the attention Buffalo's getting. But Alaina, I hate to kind of change the tune here, but there's been kind of some negative stories that you had to cover in the last couple of weeks here. I'm sure it wasn't easy covering the whole story with Matt Ariza, with the allegations of the gang rape, and then Dawson Knox's brother passing away. So there were some stories that occurred. Has that at all affected the mood of the team, or was it something like, hey, let's come together, and how can we help other community during this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things going on here. So for Dawson with his brother, I think we saw, he took some time away from the team. It wasn't that long, but he did miss. He wouldn't have played in it anyway, but he wasn't at the last preseason game. He took some time away, missed a couple practices, and with his brother's sudden passing at 22 years old. And yeah, I mean, I think you saw from that, I thought the response was really cool. There were some teammates who had shirts made with his brother's name on it, and the community raised. Dawson actually just told us on Monday, that the over $200,000 had been raised by Bills fans, by other people in his brother's name, to a foundation that supports people who have pediatric cancer, which is something is a cause of his choice, which I thought was really cool, and that's something Bills fans are very good at, is donating and giving back to charities that really matter to the players, or if something comes up, they're really cool about that. So I thought that response was Dawson was clearly touched by it, and I thought that was really cool. And then on a completely different note, the Matt Ariza situation has been very difficult to cover, I would say, on a personal level. And then I would say, I think this team's response has been interesting. They're clearly now at a point where over a week removed from all that, a week plus. And I think it's very minute. So there's a new punter in the building, turned the page, moved on from that, kind of not, I thought one of their players, center Mitch Morse, talked about it one day, and he said, we're moving on from it, but we also need to learn from it, which I thought was really important. Because if you just move on, I think history tends to repeat itself. And not necessarily the same way, but you can kind of see stuff comes up if you just kind of move on and don't think about it. So I mean, there's a whole lot with that situation, but the team, they were swift once it's a whole thing. Like that, we could talk about that for an hour. But you've seen kind of on a team level, like they're clearly now at a point where like they're focused on the Rams. They've moved on. It did, I think, catch them up. A lot of the players like off guard, and when it first came out, it was in the news. Like they weren't expecting that. So I think at first it was like a shock and like handling it and seeing how the team was going to handle it. And now they're very much at a point where it's just moving forward.
Yeah, and before I let you, Victor, ask a question, these are conversations that we need to have. You can't just put them in the back burner and go back to football. So I'm glad that the Bills players are talking about it and trying to figure out, or asking, what can we do to help? What can we do just to listen better? So that's good to hear. I know that you could get into how the team handled it before that, but at least kind of after that, moving forward, that this is a conversation that needs to continue. For many weeks and years to come. But Victor, go ahead and ask away.
Well, I was gonna ask about Von Miller, but before we move on, how do you feel the chemistry will affect? Is there any residual effects you think that will happen from this?
I don't think so. I think if it was a different position on the, like I don't know, it was a rookie, like Matt Ariza was a rookie. He I don't know. I mean, I think there will be some. I think it's impossible to say like there will be no impact. Like that seems ignorant, or just like not realistic. Maybe is a better way of saying that. But I don't think like over the course of the season it'll have like as big of an impact as if it was. This is a little weird to say, but like a different player on, like if it was someone else maybe who had been on the team longer even and played the same position. So I don't think so. I think this team will be able to move on, and I think they already have. And I think they've got pretty strong leadership among the players that they can keep them moving forward.
And I'm guessing one of those voices is Von Miller. How has he been? How has he been talking about going up against his former team, the Rams?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of mixed emotions for Von. The theme since he came to the Bills is he has only the nicest things to say about his time in LA. He clearly loved it. Loved Aaron Donald. I think he when Aaron Donald comes up, he only says like the best things about playing alongside him. Loves Sean McVay, loves the organization. So I think there is some mixed emotions, especially because it was such a tough decision between the Rams and the Bills, what he wanted to do for the next stage of his career for the long term. So it'll be, I think he said he's already kind of visualized what that'll be like, what it'll be like to see Aaron Donald pregame. What he said, like if Sean McVay gives him like a weird look or something, which he was joking, but like, what if the fans will cheer him? Will they boo him? Like he's like I can't believe they'd boo. I would be surprised if you guys tell me, but I would be surprised if they'd boo him. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong, so but I guess you never know. But he's kind of visualized all that, and he's clearly very much so like I think looking forward to it. But he said it. The NFL is messy. He said because they knew exactly how to schedule this, and I'm sure Von being on the Bills made this only more appealing for it to be the Week 1 game.
Go ahead, Gilbert.
Taking over from Von Miller from defense to the offense, Alaina, stopping Josh Allen. It sounds easy to say, but I'm guessing that maybe you could do it, but but it's not easy for sure. And then he has these really good wide receivers and Stephon Diggs. And speaking of names that we got to get right, is it Gabe Davis or Gabriel Davis?
It is Gabe. He would like to go by Gabe.
Okay,
yes.
See, this is why you ask, and
and
it's a good name. I get confused actually a lot, Gilbert for Gabriel, so it's a kind of a bond there, but it's Gabe, so Gabe Davis. But yes, how do you slow down Josh Allen? And then when he has all these weapons, and then I keep seeing Isaiah McKenzie's name come up more and more as a slot receiver.
Yeah.
But I think he has like a growing thing. But by the way, these injury reports are back again. Those are kind of I guess weird to see again or fun. I don't know, whatever for fantasy football. But just to kind of summarize, how do you slow down this Josh Allen-led offense?
Yeah, it's hard. Isaiah McKenzie should be good to go. He's been practicing. He's got a groin thing, which we finally was revealed what the injury was exactly, but it is a groin, and he should be fine. He practiced in full on Monday, and I'd be very surprised if he isn't like good to go for the game. But he should be interesting as their slot receiver. It's very different. Cole Beasley filled that spot before, and they're very different receivers. Isaiah is a speed guy. Cole's more of he's good with the moves. He can, he runs a really nice route, and that's something like Isaiah has been growing in. It's something they've been really happy to see his development through camp, but he's a speed guy for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in that role with Josh. He's actually Josh's longest tenured receiver, which is pretty wild. So definitely someone who has continued to build that trust, though, especially with Cole moving on. And then it's hard to slow down Josh Allen and this offense. I think a weakness in last year was the running game, and I think they've had trouble getting that going, and then that got them into some tough situations in games where like a team like the Rams can then create pressure and put them in these tough spots. They're going to try and make the run, a stronger part of their game, and I think earlier in the season that was definitely a problem early last year. Devin Singletary is a guy who's going to be kind of their lead back, and then Zach Moss more in short yardage situations. And then rookie James Cook, they're going to kind of slowly get into the offense. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not like a huge part of their game on Thursday night, but he could definitely get some opportunities depending on how the game's going. So it's hard to slow them down. I do think if you can get them in those 3rd and long situations, that's ideal for a defense. And they're going to try. It seems like they're trending towards Josh running with the ball less if they can help it, because they want to keep him healthy. So like if he's taking less hits, that's ideal. But that also makes this offense, he's very good at running the football. So I think that makes this offense, it's an interesting component if he's not running it as much. So it's definitely, to me, getting them in those tough situations. And that's by like, if they can't run the ball, then it becomes a lot easier to slow them down.
I'm guessing if Sean McVay is watching this podcast here, he's disappointed by your response. That he has nothing to kind of go off of stopping Josh Allen. But I'll go off of what Bobby Wagner was saying. Like, he was like listening to a bunch of things that Josh Allen could say, and he's like, "Yeah, just gotta limit one thing and hope for the best, and like maybe stop him with the running." So it is going to be a problem. But before we let you go, one more football question: how does this defense kind of adjust without Tre'Davious White, the cornerback?
Yeah, that's actually like one of the biggest questions I have going into this game. How are these young corners going to look? I mean, I think we're not talking about it enough. The Bills' starting cornerbacks on Thursday are going to be Dane Jackson, who's a late 2020 pick, and he filled in for Trey last year, and was fine. Like, he did the job well, but he's the main guy now. Like, he's the starting, the number one corner in this situation. And then, they're not. It should be Kaiir Elam, their 1st-round pick, on the other side, but Christian Benford who's another rookie, but not the 1st-round pick. If you're catching on with what I'm going here, could also get some time. So like, they're helped out a ton by safeties Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. If they did not have them back there, I think this defense would struggle a lot more without Trey. But they've got that help back there, should be huge. Jordan Poyer should be good to go. He's coming back from the elbow injury. So how they respond, honestly, and how they play in this game is something the Bills, we're going to see how it goes. It's a huge, huge challenge. They do have nickel corner. Taron Johnson has played really well, and they like to play a lot of nickel. So you will see him out there a lot, unless they do something wild week 1, and who knows, but he played a lot last year. But yeah, I think how those rookies, especially if Kair's out there a lot, if they mix them up, like how they respond could be huge, like for the outcome of this game. Even with that safety help, having 2 young corners out there against an offense like the Rams have, and the options that they have out there, that could be a really key part of this game. So it's a little bit of an unknown, and it's going to be something to watch, because when you don't have Trey White out there, you've got these young guys. It's going to be a challenge. I think how those 2 safeties can help them out will be a huge part of the outcome of this game too.
See, this is the benefit of talking to you. You're there every single day. You're the beat reporter. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to need to focus on the secondary, because everybody's like, saying there's no weakness on this team. I'm like, okay, now let's look here for some good matchups, because it's going to be a problem with Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson. Yep. So maybe Rams fans are thinking, okay, finally, there's something here. But I appreciate your time. And be honest with me. Did I butcher your name once? I feel like I went with an E one time. Did I mess it up or no? You can be honest with me.
You might have said a little more of the E the one time, but it's like not a big deal at all. Like I get all sorts of things, so I'm not offended at all by it.
Well, thank you, Alaina Getzenberg from ESPN Bills reporter. Awesome to have you on, and thank you so much. And I'll see you in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium for a really fun Thursday night football matchup.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, and good luck with the pod and all this stuff. I really appreciate you having me on. It was awesome to chat with you guys.
Thank you. It means a lot to us. Appreciate you.